Love Letters of a Portuguese Nun is a 1977 West German Swiss film directed by Jesus Franco, loosely based on the letter of a Portuguese nun attributed to Mariana Alcoforado. It starred Susan Hemingway and William Berger. It tells the story of Maria, a girl in Inquisition era Portugal, whom a priest sees cavorting with a boy. He orders her to become a nun as penance. In the convent, Maria gets subject to all sorts of torture and humiliation at the hand of the priest and the Mother Superior. On a beautiful summer day long ago, 16-year-old Maria Rosalia is rampaging through the Portuguese wood with an 18-year-old friend. They are observed by a clergyman. He reveals himself as Father Vincent. He talks Maria, feeling guilty about her fornication, goes with her to her mother, a poor laundress. The soul of the young girl can only be saved in a special monastery. The priest relieves the mother of her last saving and takes Maria to the convent. There the superior, who let herself be called high priestess, first establishes Mary's virginity and appoints Father Vincent as the protector and disciplinarian of her body and soul. During a confession, the priest elicits some secret from her. However, she said that she dreamed it. Nevertheless, the priest becomes aroused and sentenced Maria to wear a crown of thorns for 3 days. The wreath is placed on her by the abbess on the same day. This is followed by some love excess within the monastery wall designed that Maria has to hear them and in her simple-minded innocence interpret them as dream fantasies, whereupon she is made to feel even more guilty. A little later, her boyfriend shows up at the monastery and wants to take her home. However, Maria considers herself guilty and wants to endure further purification in the monastery. After a while, however, she writes a letter to her mother in which she admits that she now wants to go with her if the boy comes again. The letter is intercepted by the head of the monastery with the help of a fellow sister, and Maria is summoned to a conversation with the abbess and the priest. Because of the writing, Maria gets deeper and deeper into the entanglements. She is sentenced to spend the next time in the prison, whereupon she is stripped of her nun's habit and locked in a kind of closet. During this time, she has to satisfy the father. A ceremony is held for her one night, during which she is Satanist desecrated and deflowered. This night too is later persuaded to be a dreamy outgrowth of her vice. A short time later, she is able to escape from the monastery and turn to the local mayor. However, he does not believe her and take her back to the monastery. This escape attempt is punished again. This time the monastery leadership takes Maria to the regional inquisitor, to whom she confesses everything and blames to the monastery leader for it. Because of the confession, she is sentenced to death at the stake. But because she has made an accusation against others, the inquisitor wants to start a new investigation, unless the accused have Maria sign a paper on which she retracts. Maria is now tortured until she signs the note. Soon after, she sits in a prison awaiting execution. She writes a letter to God because no one else is listening to her. She describes what happened and apologizes to her master. In desperation, she let the letter blow out of the window, dropping it at the feet of a prince. This is an enlightened modern prince who has long resented the burning of witches. He prepares everything and saves Maria the next day from the already smoking pyre. The film then ends when the prince read out her letter, and shortly thereafter those responsible, Father Vincent and the high priestess, are arrested by his soldier. Foxy-looking nun doing trick with their willing and ravishing bodies in blood-shock and satanic theme movies. Call it what you want, it's still fun. It's a pretty deranged to see a bunch of nuns bringing sacrifices to Satan. And it's even more messed up to see Lucifer actually appear then and violate an innocent young disciple. Who else than Jess Franco could have been responsible for this? The godfather of sleaze tried out every subgenre of Euro horror in his long, fertile career, and this stylish, well-cinematographed film represent his bizarre nun fantasies. A young girl named Mary, played by Susan Hemingway, is caught fooling around with her boyfriend by a frustrated priest. He intimidates her poor mother to force her into a convent. The nuns there, led by Alma Mater Anna Zanetti, take unusual interest in her young and sensual body. Lovely convent this is. Mother Superior is a horny devil worshipper and the priest is a pervert. This really is one of Franco's finest achievements. Although the film exaggerates extremely when it comes to sleaziness and absurd situation, it also brings forward a lot of style and beauty. The acting is above average and the locations are beautifully chosen. The best aspect about the whole film is the truly magnificent music by Walter Baumgartner, who made a career out of filling exploitation soundtrack. Love Letter from a Portuguese Nun may not be top quality cinema, but it shows a lot of goodwill and depth. The film is very well directed for the most part, stylized but highly effective framing. Notably the shot where William Burger is forcing himself onto Susan Hemingway, and positioning of actors. The scene where Hemingway is again raped, now by Herbert Fuchs, devil incarnate, while all the time her head is resting on Anna Zanetti's shoulder, who seemed to be getting her kick by proxy. The nick of time ending is effectively handled as well, especially its fading out on the two villain apprehension, leaving their eventual fate, as it were, to each and every member of the audience. The acting of the three principals is terrific. Susan Hemingway managed both the characters' inherent innocence as well as her determination to put a stop to all the evil at the Abbey. William Burger as the sickest priest ever to hit the screen, who immediately demonstrates he is adept at persuading virtually anyone to do his bidding. Anna Zanetti, however, matches Burger with her proud Mother Superior cum High Priestess, creating what is perhaps one of Franco's most fascinating female villains. What I couldn't quite figure out initially about Love Letter of a Portuguese Nun is its apparently schizophrenic nature. While it takes the utmost care in establishing period atmosphere and the mood of specific scene, and doing so with great subtlety, the film then goes overboard with its frequent depiction of love activity among the nuns and their unmitigated devotion to Satan. That said, the scene where Zanetti painfully confirms her faith is well done, as are in fact the various torture to which lovely Susan Hemingway is subjected for her defiance of the house rule. Much as Franco's The Bloody Judge was made in the wake of the classic Witchfinder General, he is the demon and Love Letter of a Portuguese Nun emerged from the relative success and eventual cult status of Ken Russell's original epic The Devil. I wouldn't say that Franco necessarily did a better job of it, but thankfully his effort did not prove so hysterical as Russell's either. Love Letter of a Portuguese Nun is a surprisingly professionally made movie from the king of sleaze, Jess Franco. Usually with Franco you can't count on a very thin plot and lots of love, but this time it's the other way round. Of course, there is still lots of room for love, but it's definitely a secondary element to the plot. This film fit into the corner of the horror genre, so I can't comment on the niche on the whole. But if it turned out to be as interesting as its title, it should be pretty good. This film follows Maria, a 16-year-old girl that is forced into a convent after the convent's leader manipulates her mother into thinking she is in league with the devil and destined for hell. However, this isn't a convent, and rather than worshipping God, these guys are actually a band of Satanists. After being forced to perform sinful acts with various members of the convent, Maria tried to escape the convent. The message in this film is actually rather potent, and it exposes the hypocrisy of religion, and more specifically, the film managed to go even further than that too, with the idea of a scandal being pretty much timeless. Scandals are still a big part of our society's news stories, and I am sure that they will continue to be, which gives this film an element of immortality where its plot is concerned. The love scenes are surprisingly brief, which is very surprising after watching the like of Vampiros Lesbos and Bare-Breasted Countess. The photography is smooth and nice to look at, leading me to believe that Jess Franco actually wanted to make a film rather than just another of his usual quickies. Jess Franco made a lot of films over his career, a lot of which are forgettable rubbish, but this film hints that the man may have a lot more talent than his list of directorial credits suggests. Despite some silly sequences, this film is professionally handled and just well done on the whole. Maybe if Franco had put more effort into the quality of his films rather than the quantity, he would have a few masterpieces under his belt. Jesus Franco's dark yet artistic movie concerns Maria Rosalia, a 16-year-old girl who is caught cavorting with her boyfriend by the devilish father Vincent. Vincent convinces Maria's poor and easily intimidated God-fearing mother to force Maria into a convent. Upon arriving at the convent, Maria is subjected to numerous wild and sadistic tortures, and it becomes increasingly clear that it is not God that these particular nuns worship. It is fairly easy to speculate whether Love Letter of a Portuguese Nun is a film with a message or not. It would appear to be a film damning the historical atrocity of the church, and while perhaps over exaggerating the real truth, the portrayal of how the church abused its power, particularly during the 16th to 19th centuries, seem to be effectively represented here. In fact, to this very day, there is still news making the headline about the darker side of religion, including the vile abuse that is often covered up the church itself and carried out by those who are supposed to spread the word of God. While not meaning to sound anti-religious, Love Letter of a Portuguese Nun is a film that is not afraid to push the boundary of acceptability all the way and condemn the wrongdoing in the church, bordering on illegal with frequent horrific representation of a 16-year-old girl suffering what can only be described as sadistic abuse. Love Letter of a Portuguese Nun is a gloomy yet surprisingly powerful, artistic and thought-provoking film. Although the scripting occasionally left a lot to be desired, particularly in the scenes involving the Prince of Portugal, generally the script was very tight and the dialogue enormously effective. It becomes very easy to empathize with Maria as she suffers the numerous horrid indignities. While I am unable to comment on the verbal acting ability of Susan Hemingway in this film, the physical performance of Susan was highly realistic, and there is little way that one cannot feel sympathy for this poor young girl. William Burger's physical performance was also of a high standard, and it became very easy to feel contempt for this lazy and perverted man. The confessional scene early in the movie showed exactly how depraved and corrupt this so-called good man was. Burger was also complemented by the addition of Anna Zanetti in the role of Mother Superior Alma. Zanetti added a loathsome female character which seemingly exhibited more savagery than the despicable Vincent. Although some may find the occasional scene of romance portrayed within the movie more titillating than necessary, they still maintain an artistic air and help create an image for the viewer of the real action within the convent. There are numerous scenes of love and romance act, but the majority of these are more repulsive than erotic. Love Letter of a Portuguese Nun is generally aesthetically pleasing, as it was shot in some beautiful location and featured many scenes of glorious Gothic architecture. An early comment on how beautiful the Abbey featured in Love Letter rang so true, and served to underline the ignorance to the truth that both the church and the village as a whole possesses. This imaginative and artistically presented film is certainly worth viewing for fans of similar movies, particularly those who enjoy European art house eroticism. This isn't your typical exploitation film because it actually has a very strong message bashing the church. A lot of these films are just out there to see nuns mess around, and while we do get some of that here, the romance isn't the main goal. Franco is certainly trying to show the evils behind the wall of priest, and this subject matter is certainly going to offend a lot of people just like it did when the film was originally released, but after all the story from the past 5 years. It's easy to say this film and Franco were ahead of their time. Both Burger and Vegas turned in very strong performances and truly nasty one as well. The entire film belonged to Hemingway, who is simply brilliant here. Hemingway made a total of 7 films in her career, all of them were with Franco. She is certainly a very good actress, and it's a shame she got out of the business or was dumped by Franco, but I have yet to hear any story about what happened to her. She was around 15 years old when she made this film, so the scenes of her are going to turn a lot of people off, but I think it brings a realistic nature to her performance as well as the film. There is nothing hard here, but the scene where she is offered up to Satan is pretty disturbing. It appears Franco was working on a larger than normal budget here, and he managed to turn over a very good looking film with some nice cinematography as well as a great music score. Franco has made a lot of exploitation film in his career, but this isn't one of them. The message of the film is quite clear and very strong, and in the end, this ranked as one of the director's best films.